Hi everyone, Brandon Clark here with Slacker Racing. I'm the owner and chief data nerd around here. And today we've got something special. We have a 255,000 original engine 997.1S that we have fully disassembled and cleaned for analysis. This engine was in Texas, largely driven on the highway, approximately 60% at cruise control. Liquid moly 5W40 was the oil used in it, filled up to the full level. It was driven hard, but never after until it had warmed up fully. Was it taken with load over 3,000 RPMs? And so yeah, we're just going to work through the various components, show you all some of the things that we look at when we're looking at a torn down engine, and see how it wore. We'll answer some of the most pressing questions like, did it have bore score? How is the IMS bearing faring after 255,000 miles? How are the rod bearings? And things like that. This is going to be a fairly technical video in nature, and yeah, welcome you to come along. So starting with the crank, we found it to be really in excellent condition. Total run out at the center main bearing was under 1 thou, 0.8 thou, and all of the journals look nice, and we don't see any pitting, we don't see any scoring. Really happy. And these cranks generally, unless we see a spun rod bearing, these cranks tend to hold up extremely well. They are nitrided and have very strong journal surfaces. The rod bearings, on the other hand, generally look pretty good with a few exceptions. The first one is on this number 3 rod bearing. We are starting to see some wear into the 3rd layer, and you can see just that little bit of copper starting to shine through, and that's on the side that we would expect to see it on. And then on this one, you can see we have some copper starting to show through at the cap, and we believe this has more to do with the twist in this rod. This rod has 30 thou of bend or twist to it, and so that would be responsible for this one. And then the corresponding main journals, you can see I have them numbered as to which cylinder goes where, and generally these look pretty good. You can see there is where the gray, the lighter gray shows the first layer of the bearing, and the darker gray shows the second. We're seeing quite a bit of wear into that second layer, and then maybe just a little bit on this front bearing. You can kind of see it's starting to almost get to the 3rd layer, and then maybe a little bit here between cylinders 2 and 4. The rest look pretty darn good. So overall in all, I would say this probably had 50,000 miles left in it before we were going to see advanced wear on these rod bearings, other than the fact that we did have some bend in this one rod, which could have been part of the knocking issue or ticking issue that this car had developed. So here we have the Bank 1 case half with cylinders 1, 2, and 3. And looking at these cylinders, they really look quite clean. You can see some veins running down through here, which is typical of the casting process where the silicone tends to congregate, but really no signs of any scoring that would be significant enough to even catch a fingernail on or allow any blow by. All of the Bank 1 cylinders look really excellent, to be honest, from a scoring perspective and surface finish. Moving over to cylinder 4. Once again, on the thrust side here is generally the side of the cylinder that takes the most wear. And it's also the hottest side of the cylinder on this bank. We just see really nice clean surfaces. The only, we do see the little veins in the casting process once again, but nothing that would indicate any signs that it is beginning to bore score. And here on number 6, we do start to see just a little bit of wipage marks on this side from, the broken rod, or not broken rod, the bent rod. So here we have cylinders 4, 5, and 6, and once again the cylinder walls really look pretty nice. We're not seeing any signs of the beginnings of bore scoring. A few more little veins of the silicone from the casting process, but no actual scoring marks or signs that it's about to start scoring. We do see a little bit of marking here in cylinder 6 that would be consistent with that rod that was 30 thou bent. However, there's no actual depth to that, so that wouldn't have affected the performance of these cylinders and their ability to seal. So the block itself looks really nice. However, in our measurements, there was quite a bit of ovality. We saw up to 6 thou of ovality on these cylinders, always in the thrust face, and so that would impact the sealing surfaces from the rings, and so we would expect to see a little bit of blow by just from that amount of ovality. Here's another look at the cylinders from the bottom side of them. Once again, this is bank 1, 2, and 3. We can get just a little better look at the walls from this side, and everything looks nice and smooth. And then again, starting with 4 and working our way to 5, and then 6 with its markings, or a little bit of markings right there. The other thing you can notice is, see the shelf down towards the middle of the cylinders? That's actually a 0.8 inch shelf, and that is all that supports the cylinders in these engines, except for the little bit of webbing in between the cylinders. And that's essentially what Hartech has redesigned, and so we will completely mill out these old cylinders and webbing, and then put in some hardened aluminum Nicosil plated replacement cylinders that are closed deck at the top for support, and then we will also be installing lower support rings so that these are supported at the bottom, making a much more hardened, resilient design over stock, and more in line with what Porsche did with the Metzger and moved to with the 9A1 engines.